Hey all, here OS Reviews. Today we're taking a quick look at the Apollo Wearable. It's part of a new emerging category of wellness-driven gadgets that are designed to help you feel better and recover faster from situations like workouts, for example. So some pretty lofty claims here, and it's described by its co-founder as a quote-unquote wearable hug for your nervous system because it uses haptic vibrations inside, and that supposedly will activate the parasympathetic nervous system that reduces your fight or flight response, helping you calm down essentially if you are really stressed out. And they also claim that using these various degrees of haptics for different modes, you're able to also fall asleep better, even concentrate better, as well as by increasing the vibrations, it can help you feel more alert if you're drowsy, for example. And the claim is that through longer term usage, for example, wearing it 5 days out of a week, you will eventually have increased HRV or heart rate variability. And typically higher HRV score means that your body is going to be more receptive to stress, it's going to be more resilient, and it's actually a metric where higher is better. So I think it's only natural to come in with some degree of skepticism regarding these claims, but Apollo claims that they have done a lot of research from even third-party entities conducting various scientific studies on the efficacy of these, and from their sample groups they have seen at least a statistically significant improvement in the recovery of HRV, as well as helping you sleep a little bit longer at night, which these folks, Apollo Neuro, are confident enough in to actually release this product to the market. So this is again backed by neuroscience research. That being said, this is not categorized as a fitness tracker or a smartwatch of its own because it doesn't have a display, and it also lacks features like, for example, heart rate monitoring or even step count tracking. It's really just meant to relieve stress or give you a little bit of energy in certain modes that you set it in with the companion app. That means if you do want to track some of the longer term implications, including your HRV score, it is recommended to also pair this with something like a smart ring or even a separate smartwatch like an Apple Watch that can track some of those additional metrics as you're using it. I do think that that could be something to improve on maybe in a next generation model. The argument is adding those features might further decrease the battery life performance, but ultimately we have to be conscious of the number of devices that we're wearing for it to still be comfortable. So at the very least, the Apollo here can be worn in a variety of different locations. You don't have to only wear it on your wrist like a watch, but you can also clip it onto your shirt. Alternatively, it can be worn on the collar of your feet instead. Here's a more concise snapshot of some of the average improvement metrics based on their studies. And as more of a niche/emerging category of products, the cost here isn't super cheap. In fact, the MRSP is actually a little north of $300. Although during certain holiday promotions, you can find it at a lower price, like for example, $280 right now for Black Friday, but that's still not going to be, for example, a budget wearable by any means. But of course, if those claims are truly functional, then that could be worth it if you are looking at, again, improving your health as well as your stress levels in time. Now, it does come in a few different color variants. Here's the one in quartz that we have in front of us. There's also one called Glacier, which is going to be all white. There's also a slate one, which has more of a bluish texture to the clip, and also a all black version. Packaging-wise, it is quite simple, and it just includes a Velcro strap that you can use it when you are wearing on the wrist or the feet, and there's also a charging cable which is braided, but unfortunately it is using a micro USB, and that is because this particular wearable is actually not brand new to the market. In fact, it has been around now for about a year or two's time, so I do think, again, if they are going to be doing a refresh on this in the future, a second gen model, it would be nice to upgrade this to USB Type-C. That being said, it is perfectly functional, and there's also a guide here that tells you the orientation on top, so it's pretty easy to still plug in. And this thing will last for about 1 to 2 days of use before you have to recharge it again, depending on how often you're activating the haptic vibrations. If it's on, for example, continuously for 10 hours a day, you have to kind of recharge it at the end of the day. But if you are using it only for certain sessions, like an hour-long meeting, as well as helping you fall asleep at night, maybe it will stretch you 2 or 3 days before you have to top it up. Otherwise, a pretty simple presentation, and the final accessory in the box that you get is just a clip for the other wearing mode. If instead you prefer the clip, you can then pop this part into the metal portion instead, and it will snap into place like so. So the design here is kind of a 2-in-1. On the edge here, you do have just 2 buttons, and by the way, when you're wearing this, it's designed to be worn kind of facing downwards, and you can then tap on the keys down below there to basically increase or decrease the vibration strength to a comfortable level, and we'll talk about that more later on in this video. You'll also see a multifunction LED light that will act as notification. For example, it will turn blue once it's synced with the companion app by Bluetooth, and you can also tap on any key once to quickly gauge on the battery percentage status. If it's flashing red, it means the battery is low and you should recharge it. Otherwise, you can tap on both keys at once to begin your session, and the device here does have onboard storage that will remember the last mode that it was in. For example, if you were in a relaxation mode and the hour-long session ended, you can tap on it again to begin another session. Otherwise, the bottom here is slightly concurved, so the plastic at least feels comfortable enough when you're wearing it on the wrist, and again, we have just that charging port. Do note though that this wearable is not going to be waterproof or even water resistant, so it should probably be staying away from any shower situations, for example. Overall though, the wearing experience is lightweight and it's not super intrusive. It's quite similar to other smartwatches, including Apple Watches, in terms of overall size, so just keep that in mind. It also means that if you are using this for a power nap as well as for sleeping at night, if you are more of a sensitive sleeper, putting it onto your feet might actually be a more comfortable orientation. As for the experience of the haptics, again, this will actually vary quite a lot based on which mode that you are in. For example, if you're trying to give yourself a dose of energy, if you're feeling drowsy, it's going to be much more of a frequent, stronger vibration that you can feel. It's actually a little bit similar to some electrical-based tense muscle stimulation units that you may have seen floating around, but by comparison, this is going to be a little bit more subtle and it's also non-invasive. Again, since everything here is just powered by haptics and vibrations. And I have to say that the vibration motor part at least is optimized and tuned quite well. You can definitely notice it once it's on, and it's able to reproduce various degrees of lightness to a more aggressive sensation, but at the same time, none of it feels uncomfortable as you're using it. It does feel like someone is gently tapping on your skin or on your wrist in a certain rhythm pattern, and the haptics in here are one step above what you'll find on most ordinary smartwatches. One thing I will say though is the process of starting as well as pausing a session, you do have to again press on both buttons, so it does require typically 2 hands to press it at the same time. Perhaps that's on purpose to prevent accidental triggers, but just one thing to keep in mind. And otherwise, the companion app here does provide you with a pretty intuitive layout. You can see some of the various modes that you can activate, different types of haptics, and it is smart in the sense that this thing I believe does have an accelerometer or motion sensor inside, again kind of like a smartwatch in that sense, and this actually detects if you are kind of turning around. For example, if you're sleeping at night, if you're tossing, the intensity will automatically kick up another notch to help you relax a little bit more, versus if you're actually sitting still, you'll gradually feel the vibrations get a little bit more subtle, continue to keep you in the current state and sleep. So it is intelligent in the sense that it's not only playing a preset intensity, but it actually does change dynamically based on how you're wearing it and how active you are during your usage. So over here, for example, the energy playlist, you are able to activate from here. You can change again the intensity, making it much stronger versus much weaker. In my personal usage, I found that around 30 to 40% intensity was already plentiful. From here, you can also change the duration of a playlist from 5 minutes up to 15 to 30 minutes. This will slightly vary based on the mode you're in. For example, falling asleep will go all the way up to 2 hours in terms of duration. Now, other ones here, including Calm as well as Unwind, they will both be a lot more gentle. You can use this in conjunction with other activities like meditating or, for example, yoga to try and kind of align with your breathing, for example. Other ones here, including social, it's kind of similar to energetic, an interesting way of directing some of your thoughts basically to something else rather than how anxious you are. And there's also a power nap one that is available for 60 minutes, and this will allow you to help you fall asleep, and then as the time is coming to an end, it will slowly get a little bit more aggressive to wake you up, kind of like a wake up alarm clock that uses lights, but this one here uses haptics instead. So all of those different profiles can be set. In fact, under the Discover tab here, you can even type in how you're feeling or what you're currently doing to give you a recommended mode. For example, right now I have a headache. It will recommend the focus profile. Alternatively, if I'm feeling maybe restless or nervous, it might feature the calm playlist there instead. Some of the small edge cases though, where I think the app here could still further improve on, would be the favorites here after you add them. I haven't seen a way to, for example, delete from the section here. It's not a huge deal. You can edit it so you can further change things like the duration as well as the intensity before saving it again, but if you want to clear it, that could be another mode that would be nice to see. I will also point out that the process of connecting the smart band with the app can also be a little bit longer than on some comparable smart wearables. On here, sometimes it can take up to 20 seconds or so before you open up the app, and then it eventually pairs as long as you have Bluetooth turned on. So that process could perhaps be a little bit faster as well. So similar to the USB Type-C charging situation, that's another small area where if they have a revised model, it might be faster to connect to the app if they're using an even newer Bluetooth chip. And you can also further tap on the sections down below, including a Me section, to further take a look at some of the analytics. For example, it can remember how long you've been wearing it for the various sessions and give you an estimated gain chart as long as you've been wearing it for more than 1 week. In my case, I've been using it for the past around 3 weeks now, and it says that on average I've gained about 5 minutes of sleep per night. Are you maximizing your usage of the device? And it's recommended to wear it for around 90 minutes during the daytime and 90 minutes at night for 5 days out of a week to get you the best experience. Again, prolonged usage is what they are referring to here before the effects start showing up. Under the stats tab here, you can also take a look at, again, another view with a graph that represents your usage during the past few days, and you can see that broken out in a little bit more detail. There are 2 final tabs on this app. One here called Schedule allows you to build an automated schedule for yourself. For example, at 9 a.m. you want to be focusing, then maybe at night you want to then fall asleep. If you stick to the same routine, you can program it and then save it over to the smart wearable for it to run. And last but not least, there's something called Smart Vibes, which is a newer feature that was unveiled, which apparently uses a little bit more personalized kind of AI recommendations to give you unique vibrations based on your own personal habits instead of some of the presets that we saw there from before. With that being said, unfortunately, this is a mode which actually requires a subscription, it seems, to unlock. So I'm a little bit torn about this. On one hand, I understand that it's still a relatively small company, and maybe there are some higher costs here due to R&D and various studies that they have to conduct to get to this point, hence a slightly higher cost of entry. However, recurring subscriptions are not really fun, and the retail price is already not cheap per se. So I would personally prefer it if it was just a one-time upfront cost, including all the features that you could possibly want in the app, instead of having some features tucked away as a more premium upgrade. As for the golden question of does it work, I would cautiously say to some extent, yes. For example, when it comes to the aforementioned heart rate variability over, again, slightly longer 2 or 3 weeks usage, you can tell that your average trends do tend to go slightly upwards. Subjectively, I did feel like I was a little bit more energetic during the past few weeks I was wearing this device, a little bit more filled with energy, but again, this could be also due to some placebo effect of just having a device that is health and wellness oriented on your wrist. With that being said, I do feel like for certain areas, including sleep, as well as calming you down, those parts actually do work surprisingly better than I expected, because the, again, haptic vibrations do actually feel like a good way of adding some degree of distraction from, for example, if you're really overwhelmed at the moment, that rhythm pattern that is being simulated onto your skin is, again, very similar to a gentle hug that you might feel from someone squeezing you, and just fall asleep a little bit more easily in my experience as well. So those were areas that I did feel like it did contribute to just, again, being a little bit more mindful. That being said, don't expect miracles either. For example, you have to be in the state of mind to actually try and be willing to give it a chance rather than being really negative and just thinking that it doesn't work from the get-go. So there is some degree of maybe conditioning to it. So as long as you have your expectations tempered, again, you're willing to give something new a try, and you are willing to put yourself into more of a habit, I think this can definitely give you certain benefits when it comes to, again, just relieving a little bit of stress, helping you fall asleep slightly better. But as it is a very interesting first-gen product, especially as we all strive to live healthier and more productive lifestyles, helping us recover faster from, again, different workouts and sessions. It is interesting to see this category slowly emerge, and other alternatives also driven by neuroscience research that I've seen floating around use, for example, Sense to help you relax as well, whereas this one, again, uses haptics, perhaps the most seamless because there are no replaceable parts that you have to worry about. Nothing is really invasive in your body, but does produce some interesting results. It's not fault-free and comes with a few quirks that we pointed out, but if you're interested in something like this, you can consider it and find more details in the description below. For now, that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. This has been a closer look at the Apollo wearable.